All right, guys. Happy Saturday morning. It's game day. Time to get the taste out of our mouths from that awful season opener that Iowa State had a couple weeks ago. Of course, the Clones are at TCU today. I'm going to run down 5 biggest things I'm going to be watching for here. First of all, I want to thank our sponsor here on the Cyclone Fanatic pregame show, the game day show. And we are presented by our friends at the Iowa Clinic and the Iowa Clinic Men's Center. Got to get in and get your flu shots, guys. Come on. It's never been more important to get our flu shots. And obviously, with everything going around, be a man, go to the doctor. I'm going to go here. Usually I like to go the first week of October to get my flu shot, and I just knock out my annual physical at that time. When I do, I'll post some pictures. It's not that big of a deal. Go in there, and you're also supporting a great advertiser here of ours at Cyclone Fanatic, cyclonefanatic.com, the podcast network, and all of our social media feeds, which you're watching these videos on today. Just a quick reminder of everything else coming up today. We'll have the Cyclone Fanatic tailgate show. Of course, that is presented by Iowa Pork 2 hours before kickoff, so that'll be at 10:30 on 1460 KXNO and 106.3 FM. Jared Stansberry, Jeff Woody will have that for you at halftime here on all of your Cyclone Fanatic social media feeds, and of course on the website too. Brett Meyer and I will have a halftime report where you guys can interact with us. We can talk about everything that we're seeing in today's game and preview the second half. And about 2 hours after the game, Jared Stansberry and Rob Gray will be here to recap the day for you, injury updates, anything like that. They'll be on all the Cyclone Fanatic social media feeds as well. But it's the game day show, as we're kind of just sinking our teeth into everything today. And I want to talk about the 5 things I am looking forward to the most today as far as how's this thing going to go for the Cyclones? And number one, I think you have to start with the injuries. Well, we'll start with the playbook. That's the biggest thing right now. We'll start with the playbook. I don't think that I think Iowa State was very conservative. I wrote on I think it was Monday or Tuesday, whenever my column came out. If Iowa State went to if it was a bowl of ice cream against Louisiana, it was vanilla, right? It was super boring. How do they bounce back from that? And can they bounce back from that in a way that will, counteract a really good TCU Gary Patterson defense? I don't exactly know what the answer is here, but I know they've got to push the ball downfield a little bit more. Averaging 4.1 yards per pass attempt is not going to cut it in the Big 12 Conference. So show me something, guys. Open up that playbook. I think that they will. If you go back, a lot of the times that Tom Manning has gotten heat, that offense has come out and looked much better the game after. We shall see. That has to be the case today. They've got to do something more against TCU offensively than they did against Louisiana. And that starts with your quarterback. We'll move to number 2, Brock Purdy. Accuracy was not there. There's a lot of pro scouts that love Brock Purdy for one reason, and that's his accuracy. Didn't have it in the season opener against Louisiana. Now, why was that? It's not that Brock Purdy forgot how to play football. Come on, guys. He's a really good quarterback, borderline elite quarterback in college football. Timing was off. The receivers, a lot of inexperience in that group. Didn't have Charlie Kolar. It was a really poor showing by that Iowa State passing game, and you look to see if that's taken a step forward in game number 2. The timing with the receivers specifically, those guys have to catch the football when it's thrown to them. A lot of that wasn't on Brock, but he wasn't good. That was probably the worst game we've seen from Brock Purdy since he became an Iowa State Cyclone. The quarterback has to be better to beat TCU today in Fort Worth. Number 3, just TCU in general. We don't know anything about this football team. We don't. They haven't played yet. One thing that as I talk to people around the sport, there's some real questions as to, practicing with COVID, contact tracing, all of that. How much is TCU practice? I mean, we think we know, but, because I started to hear some rumblings about Iowa State's practicing leading up to that Louisiana game, and it's like, oh, no wonder they were rusty, right? So I don't know if I've ever covered a game where I know less about an opponent and what you're going to get than Iowa State and TCU coming up later today in Fort Worth. I truly mean that. I was talking to John Walters, the voice of the Cyclones, earlier this week on my radio show, and it's just like, John, do you have like 3-4 guys at each position for TCU that could get into the game? I think they could play 3 quarterbacks today. I think they could play 4 running backs today. I think it's going to be a total mess, specifically on offense for TCU and Gary Patterson. But it leaves a real element of mystery that kind of makes me nervous as well, looking at this from an Iowa State perspective. Let's look at the quarterback situation for TCU here at number 4. Threw us a little bit of a curveball earlier in the week with Max Duggan. Of course, the 4-star prep out of Council Bluffs chose TCU over a handful of schools around here, specifically Iowa State. Matt Campbell was in love with Max Duggan during the recruiting process. Iowa State ended up with a guy named Brock Purdy instead. But it's one of the great stories. It's one of the great stories to come out of COVID. There are not many of them, but Max Duggan is one of them. They found this heart defect. He has surgery 6 weeks ago, and he's cleared to play. But will he? He had a heart surgery 6 weeks ago. Can he play football in the Big 12? I'm guessing he plays some, but I don't know to what extent. Is it a situational type deal? I have no idea. Their backup is a walk-on. He's a former walk-on from Georgia. He's only attempted 8 passes in his career. And then they also have a JUCO guy. I wouldn't be surprised if all 3 of them play today, but I have no idea. I'll be closely watching that quarterback situation for TCU. And fifth, probably the most important thing to watch for today is for Iowa State and the injuries. I'm fully confident in Iowa State's defense. I think TCU is going to have a hard time moving the football against the Cyclones. I think that defense is going to be ready to play and is going to be, a hell of a force for any of those TCU quarterbacks to deal with in their first game of the season. My big question comes offensively with Iowa State with injuries. I think Iowa State can survive against an average team without Downing or Robert Hudson in the middle. I don't think they can survive without both of them. Are either of those guys back? Are both of them back? Are neither of them back? It's going to have a big impact on the running game today, and specifically pass pro with Brock Purdy. We're trying to get his accuracy back going. He needs to be protected. And Charlie Kolar, the All-American tight end, Brock's favorite target wasn't there. His most comfortable target wasn't there in week 1. We're still really fuzzy about what the injury situation is actually like with Charlie Kolar. Is he back? Frankly, though, I'd rather get the line guys back. I know Kolar's a big deal, but we saw that Iowa State offensive line get great push early on against Louisiana before Trevor Downing went out. I think if you bring Hudson and Downing back, that's a huge coup for the Iowa State offense today. They're going to be doing some ball control, guys. This is going to be an ugly, slug-it-out type football game. I really believe that. And we'll keep an eye on that up until game time. We're going to be watching for Charlie Kolar, Trevor Downing, and Robert Hudson. What is the injury situation like up front for the Cyclones? I'm excited. I wish there wouldn't have been a bye week last week. It was a horrible week to sit there and watch football with the Cyclones being 0-1, but I'm fired up for today. The Cyclones are going to kick off at about a 3-point favorite today over the TCU Horned Frogs. Again, I'm thinking it's going to be an ugly, slug it out, a lot of turnover type game. I hope not. I hope Iowa State's offense makes me eat some crow, but I need to see a little bit more. This is one of the best secondaries in the country that you're going up against with Gary Patterson, one of the great defensive coaches, not only in college football now, but in the history of the sport. Gary Patterson is an elite defensive coach. He's been licking his chops watching Iowa State's offense in that horrendous film against Louisiana. Let's see if the Cyclones can turn it around today. I've got Iowa State winning by about 10 points. I'm going 24-13 Cyclones today. That is my prediction, and I hope for the sake of everybody I end up being correct. Coming up at 10:30 on 1460 KXNO and 106.3 FM, it'll be the Iowa pork-powered Cyclone Fanatic Tailgate Show with Jared Stansberry and Jeff Woody. And then, of course, at halftime, check us out on all these feeds. Brett Meyer and I will be here to break down everything we saw in the first half, look ahead to the second half, and then post-game with Jared Stansberry and Rob Gray. 2 hours following the final whistle and they'll be here on all of our platforms as well. We always want you guys to leave us some feedback. What are you thinking about today's game? You can follow us on Twitter at Cyclone Fanatic. Drop in on the Facebook page as well, or go and mix it up on the forums. That's what I'm all about, baby. Mixing it up on those forums. Have a great day, and let's relax a little bit. Let's relax. I like the clones today. I hope you guys too. I hope you do too. We thank our sponsors, the Iowa Clinic and the Iowa Clinic Men's Center. Don't forget about those flu shots. It's more important this year than ever. I'm Chris Williams signing off. Have a great tailgate. Remember to get into our Iowa Pork Tailgate competition. There's stuff all over our social media about that. It's simple. You fill out a form. You send in some pictures. You can win a Traeger grill. What's not to love about that? Thanks for watching today, guys.